Hello and good morning, Year 12. This lesson is all about memory retrieval practice. So, I would just like for you to look back on the last sort of 3.5 terms and think of something that you wish you'd known at the start of this school year. So, let's have a look then. How do you remember things? What are the planets of the solar system in order? How do you remember this list? And are there any other techniques that you can use for remembering? I always used my very easy method, just speeds up naming planets, but that was back when Pluto was a planet. Is there a different one that you use? Are there any other mnemonics, any acronyms, anything that you can think of that you use to help you to remember things? So, spend 2 minutes, have a look at this list and see if there are see how many of these you can remember. Okay, so spend 2 minutes, pause the video, and then write them down. So, write down, hopefully you've written down as many of those as you can remember. How did you choose to remember them? Did you look at acronyms, rhymes? Did you write them down repeatedly, say them aloud? So, if you ever need to remember lists, and a lot of you will have courses where you need to remember lists, one of the easiest things that you can do is group items together. Additionally, you could maybe tell a story. You could picture the actual objects or link objects to shapes, and only link 2 things at a time as well. So, have a go. Try and memorise these things for 2 minutes, please. Pause the video, spend 2 minutes, memorise these objects. So, can you memorise anything then? Let's have a look at this video.
The memory palace is a technique to remember facts, numbers, or other things, like a shopping list. It has been around since ancient times and is also known as the method of Loki. Memory champion Marwin Wallonius used it to remember, in just 30 minutes, the correct order of 5,040 binary digits and a complete deck of 52 cards in just 33 seconds. Here is how it works. Close your eyes and imagine some sort of familiar physical space, like your house, school, or office, and then add a mental image of the thing you want to remember. To remember a bunch of things, you can use different rooms and visualize how you would walk through that space following the same specific route. As you walk through, place the things you want to remember at specific locations. Ideally, imagining things in a funny or crazy way also helps to remember. Once we have placed all items that we want to remember, our memory palace is complete. The day we return to our palace and want to remember what's inside it, we have to go back in. We have to concentrate and imagine opening the door and walking our route. Once we pass by the specific location that we use to place our thing, the item will pop back into our minds. Let's try to remember 7 ingredients to make some pancakes. 1. You open the door and see a full cup of flour next to some shoes. 2. You walk into the bedroom. Inside your bed sleeps a teaspoonful of baking powder. 3. In the living room sits a massive egg watching TV. 4. And on top of the TV is a cup of milk. 5. You go into the kitchen and see 6 teaspoons dancing around a bottle of vegetable oil. 6. You leave the house and enter the garden, but it's full of sugar canes and in the middle a teaspoon dressed like a gardener. 7. You turn around to check the bathroom. The only thing left is half a teaspoon and salt. Now try yourself. Close your eyes and think of a familiar place, such as your home. We will now slowly list 7 numbers. As you walk through your space, place each one in a different location. Let's go. 3, 14, 1, 5, 9, 2, 6. Now revisit your palace, then write in the comments below what you can remember. By the way, if you want to memorize pi or something else for a longer time, forget this technique. Turn off your screen and start. Nothing beats learning by doing.
Okay, so that is just one technique that you can use. So, you should be able to remember the numbers as, for example, in the porch there are 3 coats hung up. I walk 14 stairs to 1 oak door that leads to the bathroom where 5 rubber ducks are floating in the bath, just as an example. So if you are particularly interested, have a look on YouTube and see if you can find the TED Talk by Joshua Foer, which is all about feats of memory that anyone can do. So retrieval practice then. This is a key technique for improving your memory of your subjects. Retrieval practice involves recreating something that you've learned in the past from your memory and thinking about it in the here and now. So, for example, a while after you've learned something by reading it in a book or hearing it in a class from a teacher, you need to bring it to mind or retrieve it. The word after is really important here. You need to forget the information at least a little bit in order for retrieval to be effective. You don't want to just immediately recite what you see in a book or what the teacher told you, but instead you want to bring the information to mind on your own. Once it starts to get a bit more fuzzy in your head, a bit more difficult to remember what you studied. So what happens when you practice retrieval then? This process of retrieving makes the information more retrievable later. So compared to simply studying by looking over your notes, if you practice retrieval, you're more likely to remember the information later. And you're also more likely to be able to use and apply the information in new situations. So retrieval practice is something that I use in my lessons every single day and every single lesson because most of my starters are based on retrieval practice. I try to ask students to remember something that we have covered quite some time ago in order to try and remember it. So, retrieval practice, there is a concept map here then. So it involves the process of withdrawing something learned, which requires effort from long-term memory into working memory. So, the way that you do it then, you put away your class materials and write or sketch everything that you know. Be as thorough as you possibly can. Then check your class materials for accuracy and important points that you've missed. Take as many practice tests as you can to get your hands on. If you don't have ready-made tests, try making your own or maybe trading with a friend who's done the same. You can also make flashcards. Just make sure that you practice recalling the information on them and go beyond definitions. Try to think of links between ideas. Retrieval practice works best when you go back to check your class materials for accuracy afterwards. There's not much point in doing retrieval practice if you don't actually check to see if your answers are any good. Retrieval is quite difficult, so if you're struggling, identify the things that you've missed from your class materials and work your way up to recalling it on your own with the class materials closed. Don't only recall words and definitions. Make sure that you're recalling main ideas, how things are related, or how they're different, and also any new examples that you think of. So, retrieval practice then, let's have a go. Choose one subject. Think back to weeks 1 to 3, so the very first 3 weeks of school in September. Write down everything that you can remember from the topics that you covered. So don't forget, this isn't meant to be easy. Once you've done that, choose a second subject. Think back to weeks 1 and 3 and write down everything that you can remember from the topics covered. You probably won't have remembered everything, but you're going to have to look back at your notes to see what you have remembered and to see what you've missed as well. Over the next few weeks, you could use your folders to help you to add to your notes, and you can just write it in a different colour. But have a think about how you're going to remember this information. So, think about what we've focused on today. What one thing do you think you could do differently?